It had been a smooth delivery. On a quiet Thursday evening in early March, Alyssa Hart gave birth to a healthy baby girl at Atlanta General Hospital. Her daughter weighed 7 pounds, 2 ounces, born just after 7:18 p.m. with a soft cry and tiny fingers that curled instinctively around Alyssa's thumb. The nurses told her everything looked perfect. No complications, no concerns. Alyssa, 29, a first-time mother, felt relief more than anything else. The maternity ward was calm that night. Alyssa had been assigned a private recovery room on the 3rd floor. Her mother, Evelyn Hart, had stayed with her for most of the evening, helping Alyssa get comfortable while hospital staff brought her dinner, adjusted monitors, and periodically checked the newborn's vitals. By 10 o'clock p.m., Alyssa's mother kissed her on the forehead and said goodbye. "Get some sleep, sweetheart. You did great," she whispered, glancing down at her granddaughter sleeping peacefully in the hospital bassinet beside the bed. Alyssa nodded, exhausted, still overwhelmed by the surreal fact that she was now someone's mother. She watched her baby for a long time, counting breaths, staring at the tiny chest rising and falling. Shortly after 10:15 p.m., a nurse named Lori Bennett entered the room for a routine check. Alyssa recognized her. Lori had been part of the birth team, kind and professional, her voice steady and calming. "Just making sure you're comfortable," Lori said with a warm smile, adjusting Alyssa's IV and checking her chart. "I'm okay, just tired," Alyssa mumbled. "That's normal," Lori said. "She's beautiful, by the way." Alyssa nodded, glancing again at her baby. "I still can't believe she's here." "You did well," Lori said, giving her a gentle pat on the arm. "Try to get some rest. We'll be nearby all night." Alyssa closed her eyes just after Lori left, lulled by fatigue. The room was dim, the only sound the faint hum of machines and the occasional squeak of wheels from carts in the hallway. Somewhere around midnight, Alyssa stirred slightly. She thought she heard voices. Soft, distant, not clear enough to understand. She assumed it was hallway noise, maybe staff shifting shifts or attending another room. She drifted back to sleep. When Alyssa opened her eyes again, the clock on the wall read 3:04 a.m. Her throat felt dry. She reached for the plastic cup on her side table and took a sip. She glanced instinctively at the bassinet beside her bed. It was empty. For a second, her brain didn't register it. She sat up slowly, blinking. There was no baby. She threw the blanket off and stood, panic rising like fire in her chest. "Hello?" she called out. "Nurse?" Alyssa stepped into the hallway, barefoot, heart pounding. A nurse passing by turned. "My baby's gone," Alyssa said, voice cracking. "She's not in the room." The nurse, someone Alyssa hadn't seen before, looked confused. "Maybe they took her for tests. No one told me. No one. She was just there." Within minutes, hospital staff swarmed the room. A supervisor nurse arrived, followed by a floor manager. Alyssa repeated the same words over and over. "She was here. I fell asleep. I woke up and she was gone." At 3:30 a.m., the hospital activated a code pink, missing infant. Security locked down the 3rd floor. Doors were checked. Nurses were questioned. The nursery wing was searched. No one had taken the baby there. There had been no scheduled tests, no notes on Alyssa's chart that her newborn had been moved. By 4:15 a.m., the Atlanta Police Department arrived. Detective Melissa Grant was first on the scene. She met Alyssa in her hospital room, where the young mother sat wrapped in a blanket, eyes swollen from crying, hands shaking. "Ms. Hart, I need to ask you some questions," Detective Grant said gently. Alyssa nodded. "Did anyone come in after Nurse Lori Bennett last night?" "No," Alyssa whispered. "Just her. She said, 'Get some rest.' I don't remember anything after that." Grant turned to the hospital supervisor. "Where's Nurse Bennett now?" "Off shift. She left at midnight." Grant took notes. "Any surveillance on exits?" "There are cameras, but not in patient rooms." At 5 o'clock a.m., hospital security footage was reviewed. Nothing unusual, no one seen carrying anything, no forced entry. It was as if the baby had vanished into thin air. By 8 o'clock a.m., the story hit local news. "Infant missing from Atlanta hospital. Authorities investigating." Reporters gathered outside the hospital. Inside, Alyssa sat alone, clutching the baby blanket from the bassinet. Detective Grant met with administrators. "We have no exit footage, no nurse log showing baby movement. Someone is lying." She turned to the staff list. "I want interviews with everyone on duty last night, especially Lori Bennett." Far away in Charlotte, North Carolina, a woman named Rachel West held a newborn baby girl in her arms. She smiled down at the child, kissed her forehead. "She's perfect," Rachel whispered to her husband, Michael, unaware of the horror unfolding miles away. By the time the sun rose over Atlanta, the news had already gone national. A newborn baby vanished from a hospital room. No witnesses, no security footage, and no explanation. Outside Atlanta General Hospital, reporters crowded the front entrance, asking questions no one inside could answer. Inside, Alyssa Hart sat slumped in a wheelchair near the window of her now painfully empty hospital room. Her hands trembled as she held her daughter's hospital ID bracelet, the one that had been on the baby's tiny wrist just hours ago. Her mother, Evelyn, sat beside her, eyes red from crying. "We'll find her," she whispered. "She's out there." Alyssa shook her head. "How could she be gone? She was right there. I didn't even hear—" Her voice broke. "I didn't even hear her cry." Detective Melissa Grant sat across the hall in the hospital conference room, flanked by hospital administrators and staff logs from the night shift. "Let's go through this minute by minute," Grant said, eyes sharp. "I want to know where every staff member was between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. The head nurse handed over the shift schedule. 12 staff were on duty. 1 maternity nurse was assigned directly to Ms. Hart, Lori Bennett. Grant underlined Lori's name. "Where is she now?" "She clocked out at midnight, standard end of shift." "Did she report anything unusual?" "No," the administrator said. "She signed off with no issues." Grant nodded slowly. "I'll speak with her today. In the meantime, pull all door logs, hallway footage, and badge swipes." At 9:45 a.m., Grant and 2 officers drove to Lori Bennett's home, a 2-bedroom townhouse in a quiet Atlanta suburb. Lori opened the door in scrubs, ready for her next shift. "Oh, Detective," she said, startled. "We need to speak with you about last night." Lori's face registered concern, but her voice stayed calm. "Of course, please come in." Grant noticed the orderly home, the smell of coffee, and a soft lullaby playing from a radio. "We're looking into the disappearance of Alyssa Hart's baby," Grant began. Lori nodded solemnly. "It's horrible. I was shocked when I heard. I was her nurse. I checked on them around 10:15 p.m. "What did you do after that?" "Finished my shift. I left at midnight. I didn't see anything unusual." "Did you touch or move the baby?" "No," Lori said quickly. "She was sleeping. I didn't want to disturb her." Grant's eyes narrowed. "Did you see anyone else enter the room?" "No, I don't think so." "Do you know Chloe Dunn?" Grant asked. "Yes, she's one of the nurse assistants." "Did she assist you that night?" "She did rounds with me, but she wasn't as assigned to Ms. Hart directly." Grant studied Lori's face. Calm, composed, too composed. "Do you have cameras in your home?" Grant asked suddenly. Lori blinked. "What? No, I don't. Why?" "Just routine," Grant said, making notes. They left after 10 minutes. Lori watched them drive off, then quickly shut the blinds. By 11:30 a.m., Grant returned to the hospital to speak with Chloe Dunn. Chloe, 24, looked pale, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. "Chloe, I'm not accusing you of anything," Grant said, "but I need to know everything that happened last night." I don't know," Chloe stammered. "It was normal. Quiet." "Did you go into Ms. Hart's room?" "Just once, around midnight. Lori asked me to check her IV line." Grant raised an eyebrow. "Lori wasn't there?" "No, she was finishing paperwork." "Did you see the baby?" Chloe hesitated. "She was asleep." "Did you hear anything strange? Anyone else near the room?" Chloe shook her head, eyes filling with tears. "No one." Grant leaned in. "Chloe, if you know something and you're scared, now is the time." Chloe looked down. "I don't know anything." Meanwhile, across state lines, in Charlotte, North Carolina, Rachel West held the baby in her arms. The nursery was pristine. Soft pastels, handmade blankets, plush toys. Her husband, Michael, entered the room. "She's sleeping?" "Like an angel," Rachel whispered. "She's so perfect." Michael placed a hand on her shoulder. It was meant to be. Rachel looked out the window, unaware that the child in her arms was the center of a statewide search. Back in Atlanta, Alyssa's room was silent. Detective Grant returned with news. "Alyssa, we're expanding the search." Alyssa looked up, hollow-eyed. "Do you think someone took her on purpose?" Grant paused. "There's no sign of forced entry. We believe this may have been planned." Alyssa's hands clenched. "By who?" "We're looking closely at hospital staff." Alyssa's breath caught. "The people who were supposed to help me?" Grant nodded gently. "We won't stop until we find her." By the third day, Alyssa Hart was discharged from Atlanta General Hospital, but she didn't go home. She sat in her mother's small living room, still wearing the hospital wristband, staring at the empty car seat they had purchased weeks earlier. The nursery back at her apartment remained untouched, a freshly painted room full of hope that now felt like a cruel joke. The media had swarmed. Every channel carried her story. Atlanta mother demands answers after newborn vanishes from hospital. Alyssa's face, pale and exhausted, appeared in every broadcast. Her voice trembled in interviews. "She was just there. I fell asleep. I woke up and she was gone. Someone took my daughter." The public's reaction was immediate. Outrage, fear, and growing distrust of the hospital. A social media hashtag spread rapidly. #BringBaby. Hart Home. Outside Atlanta General, protesters held signs. "Who took baby Hart?" No cameras, no answers, no trust. Inside, hospital administrators scrambled. Investigators questioned every nurse, doctor, assistant, and technician. But no one confessed. No security camera captured the moment. No one saw the baby leave. It was as if the child had disappeared into thin air. In Charlotte, North Carolina, Rachel West placed a soft pink bow in the baby girl's hair. "She's growing so fast," she whispered. Michael, her husband, smiled from the doorway. "You've been glowing." Rachel nodded. Having her, it healed something in me. They had told friends the child came from a private adoption agency in Georgia. They never asked for details. Rachel and Michael believed it. Lori Bennett had promised them privacy, no court hassle, and legally cleared papers. She was given up willingly, Lori had told them, handing over forged adoption documents in exchange for $100,000 in cash. They didn't know the truth. Not yet. Back in Atlanta, Detective Melissa Grant reviewed Ever. My staff log again. One name kept circling back. Tyrell Banks, a hospital tech assigned to equipment and patient transport. He hadn't been assigned to the maternity wing that night, but his badge was swiped at 3:02 a.m., just minutes before Alyssa woke up and discovered her baby missing. Grant visited Tyrell at his apartment. "I didn't take no baby," he said, voice firm but nervous. "Tyrell, why were you on the maternity floor that night?" "Lori Bennett called me. Said a cart was stuck, needed help moving it." "Did you go into Alyssa Hart's room?" "No," he said quickly. "Never." "Did you move anything out?" "Cart, some linens, that's all." "Alone?" Tyrell paused. "No, Chloe Dunn helped." Grant's eyes narrowed. "You and Chloe moved something out together?" "She didn't say it was a baby. She said, supplies." Grant stood. "Don't leave town." As she walked away, Tyrell muttered under his breath, "I didn't know." That night, Lori Bennett sat in her kitchen staring at her phone. News coverage showed Alyssa again, crying, begging for her daughter's return. Lori's hands trembled. She had spent some of the money. A new car, credit card bills paid off, a down payment on a vacation condo. She thought she was careful, but now Tyrell was getting nervous. And Chloe looked ready to break. Lori knew she had to tighten control. She picked up her phone and called Chloe. "We need to talk." Chloe Dunn sat on the edge of her bed, tears running down her face. Her mother's voice called from the kitchen. "You okay, honey?" Chloe wiped her eyes. "Yeah, just tired." Her phone buzzed. Lori. Chloe ignored the call. Her guilt was growing. Every time she saw Alyssa on TV, she felt sick. She had only followed instructions. She didn't know Lori was going to sell the baby. She thought it was hospital protocol, maybe custody issue, something official. Now she knew the truth, and it was eating her alive. Alyssa Hart sat awake at 3:00 a.m., the exact time her baby had gone missing. She clutched the knitted blanket her mother had made for the baby. Every sound outside made her flinch. Her mind ran wild. Was her daughter alive? Safe? Did someone hold her and tell her they were her parents? She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. All she could do was wait, and hope someone, somewhere, would tell the truth. It had been 6 days since Alyssa Hart's newborn vanished, and there were still no answers. Detective Melissa Grant was running on little sleep. Her office at Atlanta PD was a cluttered mess of interview transcripts, badge swipe logs, and a whiteboard covered in timelines. At the center, Lori Bennett, nurse. Next to her, Chloe Dunn, assistant. Below them, Tyrell Banks, tech. 3 names, 1 missing baby. The investigation was at a standstill until a call came in from the IRS. An IRS fraud investigator named Nathan O'Brien requested a meeting. Grant met him at the federal building the next morning. O'Brien got right to the point. "We flagged Lori Bennett in a routine asset review," he said. "Her income is around $62,000 per year, but in the last 30 days she deposited $42,000 in cash toward a new condo purchase in Buckhead." Grant's eyebrows lifted. Cash? All of it. No loan, no mortgage application. We're tracing the source. "Does she have any side jobs? Inheritances?" O'Brien shook his head. "No. This is suspicious activity, and it began 2 days after the baby disappeared." Grant felt her chest tighten. This was the first solid lead. "Can I get those bank records?" "They're on their way to your office now." Back at the station, Grant reviewed the data. The cash came in 3 deposits, all under $10,000, attempting to avoid reporting thresholds. Structuring, a federal offense. The deposits were made at a local credit union with no noted source. But the real breakthrough was this. 1 deposit came with a note in the bank's internal system. The teller wrote, "Customer said, funds were from a private legal agreement." Grant's stomach turned. Private agreement. She now had a motive, and proof that Lori Bennett's financial life changed dramatically after the disappearance. The next step was pressure. She called Chloe Dunn back in. Chloe sat in the small interrogation room, visibly shaking. She hadn't stopped fidgeting since she walked in. Her eyes were swollen, dark circles under them. Grant placed a file on the table. "Chloe, I'm going to be honest with you. We know Lori Bennett received a large sum of money right after the baby went missing." Chloe froze. "We believe Lori is hiding something, but we also believe you didn't know everything when this happened. If you cooperate now, you could avoid charges." Tears welled up in Chloe's eyes. "I didn't. I thought—" She said it was a custody situation, that the baby needed to be moved quickly for her safety. "Did Lori tell you that?" Chloe nodded. "She said the mother had signed paperwork but didn't want to talk about it, that it was confidential." Grant's voice was calm. "And what did you do?" "She asked me to distract Alyssa. I checked her IV. I didn't think—" Her voice broke. "I didn't think it was wrong." "What about Tyrell Banks?" "He helped move something. I didn't see the baby. I didn't see her take her." "But you saw Lori later?" Chloe nodded. She was calm, like nothing happened. Grant leaned forward. "Do you know where the baby is now?" Chloe shook her head. "No, but I heard her on the phone. She said the name Rachel and Charlotte." That was all Grant needed. She stood. "Thank you, Chloe. You just helped bring this baby home." That afternoon, Grant obtained a search warrant for Lori Bennett's home and financial records. During the search, they found forged adoption paperwork, a large safe, and documents showing contact with a woman named Rachel West, Charlotte, North Carolina. Grant now had the name. Meanwhile, in Charlotte, Rachel West was unaware her perfect new life was about to come crashing down. She sat in the nursery, humming "Sa te sosan," softly to the baby girl she believed was legally hers. The room was filled with warmth, pastel walls, storybooks, toys. Michael walked in, smiling. "She's our little miracle." Rachel kissed the baby's forehead. I still can't believe she's ours. Back in Atlanta, Lori Bennett was arrested at 8:45 p.m. outside her condo. As officers cuffed her, she said nothing, only stared straight ahead, jaw tight. At the station, Grant didn't wait. "Where is the baby?" she demanded. Lori said nothing. "We know you took her. We know you sold her. You can choose to help this child now." Finally, Lori whispered, "She's in Charlotte, with Rachel and Michael West. They think it's legal. Is the baby safe?" Lori nodded. "She's loved." "That's not the point," Grant snapped. "She was stolen." On a quiet morning in Charlotte, North Carolina, Rachel West sat in her sunlit kitchen, sipping coffee as her daughter, the baby girl she had named Emily, cooed softly in her crib beside the table. Rachel gently rocked the crib with her foot, humming a lullaby. Her husband, Michael, entered in a suit and tie, briefcase in hand. "I don't know how I'm supposed to go to work," he said, smiling down at the baby. Rachel smiled back. "You're not. You're going to be late again because you won't stop staring at her." Michael chuckled, leaned down and kissed the baby's forehead. "How could I not? She's perfect." They didn't notice the unmarked police vehicle pulling up across the street. At that same moment in Atlanta, Detective Melissa Grant stood before the press. "The infant who disappeared from Atlanta General Hospital has been located," she announced. "We have identified a couple in Charlotte who currently have custody of the child. They are cooperating." Alyssa Hart, sitting at home watching the press conference on TV, covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. "They found her," she whispered. "They found my baby." Her mother, Evelyn, sat beside her, stunned. "She's alive?" Evelyn asked. Alyssa nodded, shaking. "I need to go there, right now." At 9:12 a.m., Charlotte Police Detective Dana Wallace and 2 officers knocked on the West's front door. Rachel answered, holding the baby on her hip. "Can I help you?" she asked, confused. "Mrs. West, I'm Detective Wallace. May we come inside? It's about your daughter." Rachel's face fell. "Is something wrong? We need to speak with both you and your husband." Rachel let them in, her heart racing. Michael, hearing the voices, emerged from the hallway. "Detective, what's going on?" Wallace took a breath. "We need to inform you that the infant in your care may have been illegally taken from her biological mother in Atlanta." Silence. Michael blinked. "What?" Rachel stared at them, stunned. "That's not possible. We adopted her, through a private agency." Wallace shook her head. "There is no legal adoption record. The woman who provided you with the child, Lori Bennett, has been arrested. She was a nurse at Atlanta General Hospital. She is accused of stealing and selling the baby." Rachel's arms instinctively tightened around the child. "I don't understand. Lori said it was all legal. She gave us papers. We paid her." Michael interrupted. "We did everything right. We paid her for legal services. We thought this was real." "I understand," Wallace said softly. "But we have confirmed this baby is Alyssa Hart's daughter, missing for 6 months." Rachel sat down, breathless. "I need to know she's safe," Wallace continued. "Can I examine her?" Tears filled Rachel's eyes as she nodded, handing the baby gently to the detective. The child looked up, confused but calm. "Healthy," Wallace noted. "No signs of harm. That's good." Michael ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "We didn't steal her. We didn't know." Wallace nodded. "That's why you're not under arrest. But we will need to return the baby to her biological mother." Rachel broke. "I can't. I love her." "I know," Wallace said softly. Rachel held her face in her hands, sobbing. "We were trying to do something right. We've wanted a baby for years." Wallace stood. "Please pack what you need for the child. She'll be transported safely. Her mother is already on her way." By mid-afternoon, Alyssa Hart arrived in Charlotte, accompanied by Atlanta PD and child welfare officials. She sat in a family waiting room, clutching the tiny pink hat her daughter had worn on her first night. Her legs shook uncontrollably. "She's here?" Alyssa asked. "Yes," Grant said gently. "And she's safe." In another room, Rachel and Michael West sat with their lawyer, still in shock. Rachel refused to leave without saying goodbye. At 4:06 p.m., Alyssa was brought into a quiet room. There, In a hospital bassinet lay her daughter, now 6 months older, chubby cheeks, alert eyes. Alyssa gasped, knees buckling as she approached. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's her! It's really her!" Tears fell freely as she reached out, touching her daughter's face. The baby looked up, blinking at the stranger, and slowly smiled. Alyssa sobbed, holding her close. "I missed everything," she whispered, "but I have you now." The drive back to Atlanta was quiet, but the air inside the car was thick with emotion. Alyssa Hart sat in the back seat, holding her daughter tightly, wrapped in the same pink blanket she had taken to the hospital 6 months earlier, the one she thought she'd never use again. The baby had fallen asleep in her arms, small fingers curled around Alyssa's thumb, just like that first night. Tears streamed down Alyssa's face, but this time they weren't from grief. They were from relief, joy, and the raw shock of having her baby back. "I didn't miss it all," she whispered softly. "We still have time." At home, Evelyn Hart opened the door, eyes wide in disbelief. "She's really here," Elin gasped, her voice cracking. "Let me see her." Alyssa stepped in, smiling, holding the child close. "Mom, meet your granddaughter." Evelyn broke down as she reached for the baby, cradling her gently. "Oh, my sweet girl, you're safe now." That evening, news of the reunion spread like wildfire. Missing baby returned to mother. After 6 months, hospital staff involved in shocking sale. Cameras gathered outside Alyssa's home, but she refused interviews. "I just want to be with my daughter," she told reporters. "That's all." Meanwhile, inside a county holding cell, Lori Bennett sat alone, staring at the concrete wall. Her hands were cuffed, her future uncertain. Her lawyer tried to offer strategy. "If you show remorse, cooperate fully, we might negotiate for less time." Lori scoffed. "I did what I had to. You sold a child. They wanted a baby. I gave them a baby. You lied to the buyers. You lied to everyone." Lori's eyes narrowed. "They loved that baby. She was fine." The lawyer sighed. "That won't help you in court." A week later, Lori was arraigned in Fulton County Court, charged with child trafficking, kidnapping, fraudulent adoption, obstruction of justice. Bail was denied. In court, she stood silently, her once pristine uniform replaced with a jumpsuit. Her family did not appear. The judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. "You abused your position, betrayed public trust, and caused unimaginable suffering." Back home, Alyssa was adjusting to life with her daughter. The baby, now officially returned to her legal name, Emma Hart, was growing fast. But the transition wasn't easy. "She cries at night," Alyssa told her therapist. "Sometimes she doesn't recognize my voice." "That's normal," the therapist assured her. "You both need time." "I lost 6 months," Alyssa whispered. "I'll never get those back." Rachel and Michael West had surrendered the baby without resistance. No charges were filed against them. "We were deceived," Rachel said in a public statement. "We thought we were giving a home to a child in Ed. We are heartbroken, but grateful she is with her real family." They returned to Charlotte in silence. Rachel left the nursery untouched. Back in Atlanta, Detective Melissa Grant received commendation for solving the case, but she didn't feel triumphant. "I wish we found her sooner," she told her captain. "You found her alive. That matters." In late June, Lori Bennett's trial date was set. Her co-conspirators, Chloe Dunn and Tyrell Banks, faced their own hearings. Chloe accepted a plea deal: probation, mandatory counseling, and community service. Tyrell received 6 months jail time, reduced for cooperation. The hospital launched an internal investigation, firing multiple staff and overhauling security. Alyssa Hart was asked to testify before a state medical board, sharing her story to push for new legislation. "We need better protections," she told them. "No mother should go through this." That summer, a new law passed in Georgia, the Hart Act, requiring enhanced newborn security protocols in all state hospitals, including tracking systems, staff background checks, and 24/7 surveillance in maternity wards. Alyssa stood beside the governor at the signing. At home, Alyssa and Emma found their rhythm. Late-night feedings, soft lullabies, first smiles, memories Alyssa clung to with fierce love. One night, as she rocked Emma to sleep, she whispered, "They tried to take you, but they didn't win. We're here, together." The courtroom was silent when Alyssa Hart walked through the doors, her steps measured, her eyes focused. It was August 17th, just over 2 months since Emma's return, and now Alyssa was about to come face to face with Lori Bennett, the woman who had stolen her child, her peace, and 6 precious months she could never reclaim. Reporters lined the courthouse steps, cameras flashing as Alyssa entered. She ignored them. She wasn't here for headlines. She was here for justice. Inside Fulton County Superior Court, Lori Bennett sat at the defense table, flanked by her attorney. She looked different, pale, thinner, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She avoided Alyssa's gaze as she entered. The courtroom was packed, press, officials, and members of the public who had followed every update. On one side sat Detective Melissa Grant, watching closely. On the other, Rachel and Michael West, not as defendants but as witnesses, their faces filled with quiet sorrow. The judge entered. State of Georgia versus Lori Bennett. Charges include child trafficking, kidnapping, fraud, and obstruction of justice. Lori's attorney entered a plea, not guilty. The room stirred. Alyssa's breath caught. Not guilty? The prosecution opened forcefully. Lori Bennett used her position of trust to commit an act of cruelty and betrayal, the district attorney declared. She took a newborn from her mother's hospital room and sold that child for $100,000 under the guise of adoption. This was not compassion, this was greed. The prosecution outlined the bank records, the forged adoption documents, and witness testimony from Chloe Dunn and Tyrell Banks, who had both pleaded guilty and agreed to testify. Chloe took the stand first. She looked down as she spoke. "Lori told me it was legal. She said the mother had signed papers but didn't want attention." "Did you ever see those papers?" the prosecutor asked. "No." "Did Lori ever tell you the baby's mother had no idea what was happening?" Chloe hesitated. "Not until after. I asked. She said to keep quiet or I'd lose my job. I was scared." Next came Tyrell Banks. "She told me it was equipment, told me to move it. I didn't know it was a baby, not until later." "When did you find out?" "When I saw the news, I knew. I recognized the room." Then came Rachel West. She sat with her hands clasped, voice trembling. "We wanted a child. Lori said it was a private adoption. Fast, legal, no courts involved. She gave us papers. We paid in cash. $1. He didn't know it was a crime." "Who did you believe the child was?" Rachel's voice cracked. "We thought she was unwanted, that we were helping. We were lied to." Finally, Alyssa was called. She stood slowly, walked to the witness stand, and faced the courtroom, and Lori Bennett. "I trusted her," Alyssa began. "She was in my hospital room. She smiled at me. She told me to rest, and while I slept, she took my daughter." Her voice wavered. "I woke up and she was gone. For 6 months I didn't know if she was alive. I didn't know if she was safe. I lived every mother's nightmare. Because of her." Tears welled in her eyes. "She didn't just steal my baby. She stole time I will never get back. First smiles, first laughs. I missed it all." The room was silent, many wiping away tears. Alyssa turned toward Lori. "I want to know why. I deserve to know." Lori didn't respond. She looked at the floor. In closing arguments, the prosecutor was firm. Lori Bennett sold a human life. She planned it, executed it, and profited. There is no excuse. The defense argued desperation, that Lori was struggling financially, had misjudged a private adoption, and never intended harm. But the jury saw through it. After 3 hours of deliberation, the verdict came. On all counts, we find the defendant guilty. Lori Bennett's head fell. Alyssa closed her eyes, whispering, "Thank you." At sentencing a week later, the judge was clear. "You violated sacred trust. You treated a child like property. For this you will serve 25 years in prison. No parole for 20. Lori was led away in cuffs. Outside court, Alyssa stood before cameras one last time. "I don't want her name remembered," she said. "I want you to remember my daughter. Safe, alive, home." She walked away, holding Emma close. The first days after the trial felt surreal. For the first time in nearly a year, Alice Sahart could wake up without dread clawing at her chest. She no longer jolted awake at night, reaching for an empty crib. Her daughter, Emma, now 6.5 months old, slept peacefully in her room, a room that was finally hers. Alyssa had kept the original nursery untouched for months. Now, she began to redecorate it together with her mother, Evelyn. New curtains, soft toys, a rocking chair by the window, symbols of new beginnings, not lost time. "She's going to grow up happy here," Evelyn said, folding a blanket. Alyssa smiled, holding Emma close. "Yes, and she'll know she was always loved." The media attention slowly faded. Lori Bennett's 25-year sentence was national news, but Alyssa declined all interviews. "I want Emma to have a normal life," she told Detective Grant. Grant nodded. "You're doing the right thing." Grant herself had received a commendation for her role in the case, but she didn't feel like celebrating. Instead, she visited Alyssa's home a week after the trial, not as a detective, but as a friend. "She's getting so big," Grant said, watching Emma try to crawl. "I missed so much," Alyssa said softly, "but we'll make new memories." "You already are." Back at Atlanta General Hospital, a plaque was installed near the maternity wing. "In honor of Emma Hart, a reminder that every child deserves to be protected, every parent deserves the truth." The hospital underwent a full security overhaul. New infant tracking systems, camera coverage, and staff background checks became mandatory. But Alyssa never returned to that hospital again. In Charlotte, Rachel and Michael West donated the nursery furniture to a local shelter for women and children. Rachel still cried sometimes, not out of guilt, but from missing a child who was never truly hers. "I hope she's happy," Rachel whispered, standing in the empty nursery. Michael nodded. "She is. She's with her real mother." They quietly moved on, never again seeking adoption. As autumn arrived, Alyssa took Emma to the park for the first time. The air was cool, leaves turning gold. Emma sat in the stroller, giggling as wind played with her soft curls. Strangers stopped to smile. "She's adorable," one woman said. Alyssa smiled back. "She's my whole world." Months passed. Emma's first birthday approached. Alyssa planned a small gathering, just close family and friends. No media, no press, just balloons, cake, and a moment to celebrate what once seemed impossible. On the morning of Emma's first birthday, Alyssa stood by the window, watching her daughter take wobbly steps across the living room. "She's walking," Evelyn gasped. Alyssa's eyes filled with tears. "She's free. We both are." That evening, Alyssa sat down and began writing a letter to Emma for when she would be older. "My sweet girl, you came into this world, loved beyond measure. For a time, we were apart, but my love for you never faded. You were stolen, but not lost. And now, you are home. I will never let you forget how strong you are, how loved you are, and how we fought for each other. Forever and always, Mom." She sealed the letter in an envelope marked, "For Emma," on her 18th birthday. In prison, Lori Bennett was just another inmate, her name slowly fading from headlines. No one visited, no one cared. In time she became a footnote, a warning, not a legacy. In contrast, Alyssa and Emma built a future filled with light. Emma's laughter filled their home. Her first words, "Mama," came one sunny afternoon as Alyssa held her on her hip in the garden. "Mama," Emma whispered. Alyssa froze, then laughed through tears. "Yes, baby, Mama's here." On the anniversary of her return, Alyssa stood in that same garden, watching her daughter run through the grass. "I found you," she whispered, "and I'll never let go." 2 months after the trial, Alyssa Hart walked through the aisles of a small grocery store, her daughter Emma sitting upright in the cart. clutching a stuffed rabbit in one hand and occasionally glancing up at her mother. It seemed like a simple errand. Just apples, formula, bread. But for Alyssa, this was the first normal day in what felt like forever. She caught a glimpse of herself in the glass refrigerator doors, tired eyes, soft smile, and paused. A year ago she had walked this same aisle, still pregnant, imagining what life would be like as a mom. She never imagined this. A woman near the checkout line did a double take, then approached gently. "Alyssa Hart?" she asked, tentative. Alyssa tensed, then nodded. "I followed your story. I just wanted to say I'm glad your daughter's home. You're so strong." Alyssa offered a grateful smile, but inside, she felt torn. Strong was not what she felt. She felt lucky, scared, and sometimes still unsure if the world was safe. Emma laughed suddenly, reaching out for the woman's hand. The stranger chuckled. "She's beautiful. You're doing great." As they walked out to the car, Emma dozed in the back seat. Alyssa sat behind the wheel, hands resting on the steering wheel, unmoving. She thought about the people who had helped. Detective Grant, her mother, strangers who lit candles during the search. She thought about the 6 months they lost, and the lifetime they still had. "I don't need to be strong," Alyssa whispered to herself. "I just need to be here, for her." And with that, she drove home, where love was louder than fear, and every day was a chance to begin again.